podcasting out of Alliance Wrestling Studios, pontificating on pro wrestling, the innovator of Talk NWA, he is Jay Cal!
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Alliance Guys podcast. This is Jay Cal, and with me today is a very special interview with Danny LimeLight. Danny LimeLight is one of the top rising stars out of Southern California. He's made appearances all over the United States, Mexico, and maybe even beyond. We're going to talk to Danny LimeLight right now. And Danny, welcome to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
Jay, what's up? Alliance Blog fans, what's good, man? Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Heard a lot of good things about you from very close friends of mine, and I'm stoked, man. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. And it's funny because you and I think have known of each other for a while, and I've been wanting to do this interview with you for probably 2 years, and it just seems like never got an opportunity to do so. One of the byproducts of COVID-19 is a lot of people have some free time on their hands, me included, you included. So thank you for taking time to speak with me today. And then also, with that being said, how are you, man? How is your family? You guys doing okay during this pandemic?
Hey, man, thank you so much for asking. I think now is the best time to do this interview. 2 years ago, it wasn't much going on for me, but now there's a lot of things going on in my life. My family's doing well. Me and my daughter, we're grinded. My daughter's doing amazing. She's a byproduct of me and her mom combined, and I'm just happy to watch her grow. Financially, we're good. We're set, and yeah, man, I'm doing great, man. How are you guys holding up?
I'm doing good, man, and I appreciate you asking that as well. We're all in the same boat. We're just trying to get through this, and it's funny you bring up your daughter, and because I've known you for a long time, and I've known of your relationship with her mom and you. I think it's really commendable as someone who has a daughter from a previous marriage, how well you two co-parent. And I just as a tap on your back, or a pat on your back, I should say, all my congratulations on being able to work that out, because it took me about 12 years to figure that out with my ex-wife. So I'm glad that it's for the kids. You try to do the best you can, but sometimes, man, it's hard.
It's hard, man. It really is. But her mom, she's a great woman. I'll never refer to her as my baby mama or say I had baby mama drama or anything like that, because she's a great woman, man. She's been in the Marine Corps, for some time, 7 years now. Almost next month will be 7 years she's been in. That's where we met, and she's great. She does a great job as a mom. She lets me do my thing as a dad. We compromise. We talk things out. What we don't agree with, we communicate that, and we fix it. And it's not perfect, but it's always a work in progress. But I'm very, very blessed that we do have it as good as we do have it.
That's good, man. Good for all three of you. So let's talk about the Marine Corps. I mean, the military was very appealing to me. I didn't go, and I always kind of regretted that. You are a byproduct of the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah! My brother was in the Corps, and I think if people who don't know about the military, I mean, how do you not know? But the Marine Corps is pretty hardcore. It's pretty tough. It's a lot longer boot camp, I believe. And I mean, you were decorated in the Marines. You were a drill instructor. Tell us why the Marine Corps? Tell me what the Marine Corps did for you, and tell me about your experiences.
Man, as a child, I always wanted to be a wrestler or an actor. Like, that was always my dream. Unfortunately, I was a product of my environment in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the south side of Williamsburg, growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I was a little shithead, I don't know if I could curse here, so sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was a street rat, and my dad he did a lot of things back then with his brothers, and I grew up around that. And, I was passing school because I played sports. So I had to maintain a certain amount of grades, but after school, I was doing a lot of stupid things. And then, after getting kicked out of 2 high schools, my third high school wouldn't allow me to play sports. It was kind of like my punishment for coming to a new school in the senior year trying to play varsity, and they just wasn't having it. So I graduated high school, and I had nothing going for me. And I kind of figured that out like maybe 3 or 4 months before graduation, that I was screwed. I wasn't going to get a scholarship. I didn't have high enough grades to get a scholarship, so I had nothing going for me. What I did know, however, was that I did not want to continue to be a product of my environment. I knew that I didn't want to be like all my cousins and stuff like that, or just sitting at home still, you know, not trying to talk bad about my family, but everybody's still at home in New York, not doing much with their life, you know, nothing to talk about really, you know, like regular 9-to-5 jobs and stuff like that. So I've always known that wasn't me. So one day, this kid in school, you know, I didn't really have friends in my new school. He just approached me, said that he'd buy me a slice of pizza if I went with him to his recruiting office to talk to his recruiter, that he'd get points for it and stuff like that. So he finessed me with a New York slice of pizza. I showed up. Yeah, exactly, right. I was like, I just show up, free pizza, whatever, no, you know, no hassle. And this staff sergeant, it's kind of going to come all the way back around, but this staff sergeant, freshly dressed in his blues, looking real crisp and clean, professional, looked me up and down and said, "You can't be a Marine." And immediately I looked at him and I knew that he was judging me based off how I dressed, based on my swagger, the chip on my shoulder, the arrogance, whatever. I knew he was judging me. He said, "You might want to go join the Army instead. The office is right over there." Wow. And so I looked at him and I said, "All right, fuck you," and I just walked out. And I literally said, I cursed at him. I said, "Fuck you," then, and I walked out. And I guess I was basically fucking showing him that he was right there. And I started walking to the Army recruiting station. I don't even know why I was walking over there. I was walking over there because he told me to. I never had any intention of joining the military, you know? And I'm just walking over there because this professional told me to go that way. So, like, he had to go over there. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to go over here now, not knowing what I was doing. And as I'm walking that way, this Army recruiter walks out. And I'm not going to talk bad about the military. I think, you know, I'm thankful for all the people that serve the military. But there's a very big difference between the Marine Corps and the Army. Right. And so this Army recruiter walks out the office with his hand in his pocket, a cigarette in his mouth, and his other hand, he's dialing a number on his phone. And I looked at him, and it was just such a huge difference in professionalism and the way that he was carrying himself and the way that the Marine was carrying himself, that I was like, what the fuck? No wonder why he sent me over there. I look like that, you know? Yeah. And so I turned back around, I walked in his office, and I was like, I don't care what you say, I'm going to be a Marine, and I'm going to be a damn good one. He smiled, whatever, went through the process, 17 years old. I went home that night. I talked to my mom. I said, "Mom, Dad, like, you know, how would you feel if I joined the Marines?" And they were super excited, which I wasn't expecting. But it's funny because my whole childhood, they're like, "You keep talking shit, and you keep acting out. If you keep doing this, we're going to send you to boot camp so they can set you straight like the kids on Maury." You know, they would always threaten me, "Oh, joke's on you, Mom. I'm going on my own," you know. Yeah. So I joined. The next day they signed the papers for me, and I graduated. 2 months after graduation, off to Paris Island I went. And my career just took off from there as a Marine. I had a hard time in boot camp. I want to thank my drone instructors, you know, Staff Sergeant Iddens and Sergeant Askew, Staff Sergeant Child, Staff Sergeant Donnelly. I'll never forget their names, just because no matter how old I get, I'll never forget my drone instructors. They broke me down, they built me up, and they set me out for success. And I did the damn thing as a Marine. I got in trouble a few times, but you know, I made it to the rank of Staff Sergeant. When I was a sergeant, I was in the top 10%. They sent me to drone instructor school, and I graduated with honors. I was the #1 graduate out of drone instructor school, and it was like a full circle, you know, because my recruiter called me and he's like, "Holy shit," you know, they used to call me Hollywood back in the day. So funny. Like, it's just like so funny because I was arrogant, cocky, flashy. I wanted to live in the limelight, you know, but I was a shithead, you know. he's like fucking Hollywood, you know. You did it. You're a Hollywood drone instructor, because in San Diego is another boot camp, and it's where they call the Hollywood Marines at. And then I went to Paris Island, but when I went to go be a drone instructor, I was a drone instructor in San Diego, which is the Hollywood Marines. And he's like, you know, fucking Hollywood, you know, you're a drone instructor, blah, 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 blah. Like, I never would have thought that kid that, you know, came into my office would go on to do this, you know. And I did a lot of things in the Marine Corps, man. I made 350 plus Marines. I trained over 400 Marines in the Marine Corps martial arts program. I did a lot of training, a lot of deployments, a lot of things like that for my country. And I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity to be a Marine. And the Marine Corps pretty much put me where I needed to be in order to start, you know, my career as a wrestler, to start my career in acting and stunts and writing and stuff. So I'm forever grateful. Every time people call me or talk to me or ask about the Marine Corps, I always say yeah. Like, I always say yeah, because I know what it did for me. A kid that, you know, didn't really have, hold on, baby. A kid that really didn't have much going on, and where I'm at now in life, and I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for the Marine Corps. I think that I would have ended up being another product of my environment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the hats behind you, those are your Marine Corps tops, right?
Yeah, those are my campaign covers hanging on the wall. Well, I have that's my last campaign cover. My first campaign cover is in storage somewhere. It's all raggedy and torn. And then that's my last one from my last cycle. And they're hanging on the wall right there. in my cover box, that I have my recruits draw some cool shit. They have like a drawing of Spider-Man, and there's one like that has Carnage. I was a savage, and the last one is a picture of Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. He snapped his fingers, and there's like a bunch of dead recruits everywhere. And there's even dead drill instructors because they used to say I was too tough on my drill instructors too. So
I mean, obviously, you're really proud of your time in the Marine Corps, and by all intents and purposes, you have every right to be. Of course, your career in the Marines came to an end, and but before that happened, you actually entered the world of professional wrestling. You started training in San Diego with SoCal Pro Wrestling. I was actually there to see a few of your early matches. I know that you were like teaming with Tommy Wilson, and you wrestled Ashley Grace, and a couple other matches. I was there to see some of your early stuff. But then that relationship with SoCal Pro kind of soured. What happened, and why did the affiliation with you and SoCal Pro Wrestling come to an end?
So I started training there in 2014, August of 2014, and I made my debut in October of 2014 at the Rumble. My first one-on-one match was with Mike Camden. Then from there, I wrestled Destro, and I wrestled Ashley Grace, and then I teamed, and I started going into this like all these little crazy random matches where, I was wrestling people that, in my opinion, besides Ricky Mandel, in my opinion, people that didn't look a certain way, didn't fit what description of what I believe to be, a professional wrestler. The truth of it is, what I think was, I had an attitude, I had a swagger to me that a lot of people, until they get to know me, don't really understand why I am the way I am. I'm very confident, and it comes across as very arrogant sometimes. And so, I was getting pinned, every show by people that I felt a certain way about. And I know that it's a business, but I was young in the business. I was still learning, and so it rubbed me the wrong way. But then my talent started getting noticed by other companies, and so other companies wanted to book me. And I'm an independent wrestler. I should be able to wrestle wherever I want. So I took a booking in LA, and I started wrestling in LA twice a month with UEW. At the time, I would always run ideas by the owner of SoCal Pro. I don't feel like saying his name, and Tommy, who was also like pretty much running the show back then. And I would throw ideas their way. And oh yeah, great idea, but we can't do that right now. Oh, great idea, but we can't do it. Oh, great idea, we can't. It was just great idea, but no. Great idea, but no. Great idea, but no. And there really was no direction for me, And so I started realizing, fans started realizing that I never won a match there, and so somehow like they tried to turn it into like there was a storyline about me not winning matches, even though I had pitched many stories about all types of ways things can go. And I was like, well, what if the original the idea that I had pitched last before I got tired of it was, what if in Super Clash me and Ricky Mandel have our blowout match, because it started to be a lot of me and Ricky Mandel beef. And I was like, we'll set the stipulation. Loser enters number one at the Rumble, which would be the 1 year from my debut. Ricky could go up cheating, on a Super Clash, and we could push into the Rumble in Oceanside, where the last two, I enter number one, do the whole Shawn Michaels, big baby trying to win his first match kind of thing, with the last two being me and Ricky Mandel. Boom, he goes over, big, huge baby pop, yada, yada, yada. Oh, great idea, but no. Okay, so at this point, is it really a storyline? Is there really any direction? Or you guys just having me job out, So I was annoyed with it, but I was like, whatever, I'll wait till my time to come in Oceanside, whenever SoCal Pro decides to give me the win, or whatever the case may be. Even though it's not important, because gosh, it's not looking back at it now, I'm like, this is stupid. Everybody says wrestling wins and losses don't matter, yada yada yada. But for somebody who's competitive like me, somebody who believes in the hard work that they put in, like, the shit does matter, Yeah. I believe that if it didn't matter, then fucking Triple H wouldn't be a 14-time world champion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like right. John Cena would have won the belt 16 times. Like, it does it. And not only that, like, SoCal Pro's wrestling shows were literally 5 minutes from base. A lot of my military friends will come into these shows every month, and they know what I do in the military. They know how I am in the Marine Corps. They know I'm a first-degree martial arts instructor in the Marine Corps martial arts program. They know that I train hard. They know I work out. They know that I fought and boxed for the Marine Corps boxing team. Like, they know all this, and they come and see me lose to girls and being tapped out by girls. It kind of kills my credibility. So that was another thing that was bothering me. long story short, I ended up winning a match all the way in LA at UEW. You know, I think I hit a 450 on Max X for the win. That's my first win ever. It was in, I think, July or June of 2015. And I get a call the next day from, I'm at the zoo with my wife at the time and my daughter at the zoo, and Tommy Wilson and the owner of SoCal Pro blowing my phone up like, how can you do that? You know, we had a storyline set. You just ruined it for our fans, blah, 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 blah. First of all, it's independent wrestling. What happens in one company does not matter what happens in another company. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Exactly. So they turned it into this huge thing. They said I was done. I can't come back to the school. I can't wrestle for them no more, blah, blah, blah. They tried to blacklist me, telling people not to book me. So I went on Facebook and I was like, and I tried to keep it kayfabe. I was like, oh, due to contract obligations, blah, blah. I will no longer be wrestling for SoCal Pro. I try to keep it that way just so people could maybe even put that over as a storyline or something. I don't know. But I didn't go out and strictly bash them and say, oh, I'm not wrestling because this, and this, you know. They took my post that I made and said that, no, this is not true. We're getting rid of him because of his attitude, because of this, because of that, yada, yada, yada. At the time, training was a joke. I think, and this is no disrespect to Ryan Kidd, but in 2014, 2015, who is Ryan Kidd to be training students? I don't think he's a reputable trainer at that time. Me and Ryan Kidd have a good relationship now. We wrestled plenty of times over, like good, he's a good dude. I respect him. We have no beef, me and him. But at the time, I was coming to school and I had this little kid, not calling him a kid, but telling me to do squats and do push-ups. And I'm looking at the way I look physically, and I was looking at the way that he was looking physically. And I was like, really, dude? I had an attitude, I had a swagger to me that people didn't like, but at the same time, it was a joke to me. So they kicked me out of school. They tried to badmouth me, and I'm like, all right, you know what? Whatever. I guess I'm not going to wrestle anymore. Upon that, about a month after, not even a month after, a week after, I get a call from David Marquez, who I love to death, from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And he's like, hey, I heard what happened. This is my personal opinion. I'm not going to put what he said out there because that's between me and him. But he understood where I was coming from. And to this day, I owe my wrestling career to this day to David Marquez. Wow. Because he took me from that situation where I thought I was never going to get another booking, and he got me booked in Championship from Hollywood. He's like, we want to bring you in. Here's my idea. Mind you, before I won in UEW, I made my debut for FCW, who was ran by Gus at the time. And because it was in San Diego area and Gus wanted me to win, I told Gus, let me not win. I'll take the loss this day. Because it was in the same area and it's the same fans from SoCal Pro going to be there. So I did keep that in mind. But all the way in LA, there was nobody from Oceanside driving to a UEW show. So it shouldn't have fucking mattered,
Right.
So Marquez calls me. He said, this is my idea, blah, blah, blah. I want to bring you in as a Puerto Rican, and I want your tag partner to be SoCal Crazy. So the original idea was SoCal Crazy, but he wanted SoCal Crazy to take the mask off. I love to this day. I don't want to say his name. I almost just said his real name out loud. But to this day, I love SoCal Crazy. He taught me so much. He was one of the guys that kept trying to bring me back to the company after everything. He kept talking to Jeff, kept trying to bring me back. He calls me. He says, "This is the idea." He's like, "They want me to take my mask off, and I'll do it for you." I don't know what happened, but like a month before the debut happened, plans changed, and they said, okay, how do you feel about teaming with Seville? And I was like, I had wrestled Seville once at UEW. I thought he was a good mouthpiece. I thought that he had the charisma. I thought he was a real good bad guy. And I was like, okay, are we coming in as faces or bad guys? They were like, oh, we want to bring you in as heel cousins, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, can we keep the last name Rivera? And they were like, that's the last name we want. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Now let me just throw something at you. Because during that entire situation, what was happening with you and SoCal Pro and all that stuff, that back then I was actually I was in charge of SoCal Uncensored at that time. Steve and I know each other very well. When Steve took a sabbatical from the site, me and a few other partners were running that site. So I reached out to SoCal Crazy to get his side of the story because I heard your side, I heard SoCal Pro side, and he had nothing but nice things to say about you. And in fact, that was around the time I think you guys went up to Ventura County.
Yeah, and we did a scramble match.
Yeah, and so I'm like, wow, like, aren't you worried about getting heat with teaming with Danny with everything that's happening? He's like, nope. I was like, okay, cool, man. And he had nothing but nice things to say about you back then. So that's kind of nice to hear that there's mutual admiration there.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that Ventura match, that was the first time I met Ruby Reyes. It was the first time that I had met Greg Hernandez. The first time I met Tara Calloway. First time I met Daniel Torch. First time I met a lot of guys. It was my first time really wrestling outside the San Diego area. So it was a fun little scramble match, and I had a really really good time with those guys. Fidel Bravo as well, but at the time it was Espiritu.
Yeah.
So it was good, and then things fast forward, and Marquez brought us in as Los Primos Rivera, and things after that really, really took off. And I think it was because I was able to contact promoters and say, hey, I'm wrestling for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Now, even though a lot of people talk bad about it, I'll never talk bad about that company because of what it's done for me and the production value and the footage and everything that comes with it. And just being able to say David Marquez, Hollywood. And I was getting a lot of bookings. I think after I made my debut on TV with Hollywood, that's when my bookings started really coming in.
And again, I'm a big fan of Dave Marquez. I've known him for 20 plus years now, and he's always been kind to me. And I've been a fan of his product, whether it was the NWA or Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And yeah, in fact, I talked to him about you and Gino too. And you guys first came onto the scene. I was like, wow, so you're booking this guy, huh? And he goes, yeah, I see a lot of potential in him. And I thought, this is so bizarre because the story that you heard out of San Diego was like, nah, man, don't use that guy. But Dave did have faith in you, and even way back then, I think that's pretty cool that for you to appreciate that from what Marquez did. Because there's been let's be honest, you've been around wrestling long enough to know that a lot of people punch my ticket, send me where I need to go, and then once I get there, forget about you. Yeah. And it seems like you are not that guy. It seems like you're very appreciative of what's happening.
The way I grew up, man, like I said, the streets were really, really bad back when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s. And I remember what it was like having people that respected my dad look out for me in the streets, show me love and stuff like that. And one thing I always told myself was like, no matter where I go, I never forget where I come from. I'll never forget the ones that did me wrong, and I'll never forget the ones that did me right. And if you did me wrong, hey, that's your fault. That's your problem. I'll push you to the side. But the ones that did right by me, I never, ever, ever forget. And I always talk good about them. And I always show them the respect and appreciation that I have, because to me, loyalty is the most important thing. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame. I care about the loyalty and the brotherhood and that mutual respect, because that's how I raised my daughter, to never forget where she comes from. And I'll never forget people like Marquez, people like SoCal Crazy, people like Rocky Romero, that it's just so many people that done right by me that I won't forget.
And that's kind of great. You brought up Rocky Romero, and that brings me to my next question, because Los Primos Riveras, and I don't know if you've ever gotten it before, I'm sure you have, reminded me so much of Los Cubanitos, or the Havana Pitbulls, however you want to call them. And it's kind of like, wow, 15 years ago we had this really awesome tag team out in SoCal, Ricky Reyes, Rocky Romero, the Havana Pitbulls, and they pretty much dominated everywhere they went. They were fundamentally sound in the ring. I don't think they ever quite had the swagger that you and Gino had, but they were certainly these two bad dudes who can back up what they were saying. And to me, as I kind of watch your maturation process from SoCal Pro to today, yeah, you do remind me a lot of Rocky Romero. I mean that in the most positive compliment way ever. What are your thoughts of Rocky Romero? And you bring him up as someone who's helped you out. What did Rocky Romero do for you?
I met Rocky Romero at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He's Latino, Azúcar Rock. He's Puerto Rican, and I'm Puerto Rican, and we just had a conversation, a normal conversation, and we talked, and his energy matched my energy. And I respected him from back then. And I was just a green boy, a young kid trying to learn the ropes, asking as many questions as I could from whoever would talk to me, because I did, like you said, I did have that, watch out with Danny, Limelight's not a good guy. He's not this, he's that. But the people that did show me love, I respected it. And Rocky talked to me that day. We had a good conversation, kept in contact. And in fact, it was Rocky Romero that messaged me last year in the fall to invite me out to the New Japan tryout. So he called me. We had a conversation that I don't really want to talk about on sure. Public because he asked me not to. He told me some things that I really, really, really liked. He looked out for me big time, and he brought me out to this tryout. And I went out there and I teamed with Mysterioso, and we tag teamed against the Regal Twins in a tryout match in front of like everybody that was there, the Young Lions, the other people that was trying to try out, and a couple of the guys from New Japan. And afterwards, he gave me really, really good feedback. Told me what he liked, told me what I needed to work on. But he told me that they wanted to use me, that he could see me working for New Japan. And the quarantine happened, so it got kind of postponed. And then he called me during the quarantine. He said, "I need you to go get a COVID test, blah, 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 blah. We're going to bring you in for the Young Lions collision." And I got two matches. He's like, "I got 2 matches for you, 2 matches that you're going to love." And I loved them. I really did. I can't say who I wrestled just yet because it hasn't aired on TV or online. But I would say that the first match that I had there, I had 10 to 15 minutes to show what I had, and it was against one of the best wrestlers in the world who I have wrestled before, and I love him just as much. Another guy that I respect and that I appreciate so much because he's done a lot for me as well, going out and putting my name out there in a positive way at Impact, putting my name out there at House of Glory, putting my name out there all over the independent scene and showing me love when he doesn't have to do that, considering that he's been all over the world. And you could probably put 2 and 2 together and figure out who that is.
Well, I'm not going to do that live on camera, but
I've wrestled him before, though.
but I have a pretty good idea. So, and I mean, you're making my interview right now super easy because you're just transitioning to places I want to go already. But you talk about the show, the Young Lions, the New Japan US. I guess it's New Japan of USA show. I know that it's going to be premiering soon on the New Japan World. What does that mean to a guy like you, Danny? Who, I mean, look, you broke ground in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. That is, I mean, a lot of people seem to forget that New Japan start that over. A lot of people seem to forget that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is seen national. It's on a national audience. There's market-specific shows in Memphis and San Francisco, Amarillo, Houston. But the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is seen all over the United States, whether it be on Tough TV or Fight TV, exactly. So what does it mean for and I'm still going to call you, you're a young guy. Yeah. You're not in your prime yet.
No.
To get this opportunity to be a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, I understand it's the American division, it's the Young Lions division, but nonetheless, you're going to be on their streaming service, New Japan World. What does that mean for a guy like you, and what does it mean for your career at this time?
Like you mentioned Hollywood and how it's national and people see it. The other day, about 2 weeks ago, I went to the gas station literally around the corner from where I live, and I was putting gas in my car, and somebody came up to me, and like I have natural reflexes, so I react a certain way out in the real world, and so I reacted, and I looked, and it's just some random innocent looking guy, and he's like, "I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. You're Danny LimeLight." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" He's like, "I watched you on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I'm a huge Hollywood fan. I really like the interview that they put out on you, and I want to see more of the interviews like the other guys." Da 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 da. So I know that Hollywood is being seen, and I'm forever grateful for. Even if people don't think it's good enough, I'm forever grateful for that. Being in New Japan, to me, this, and having wrestled in Impact last year, like, and the response that I got on social media from the Impact debut that I made, and then now the response that I received from New Japan just by them announcing me, it's unbelievable. It feels so good to be a young Puerto Rican from New York, to be able to come out and perform for such a huge company, one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the most respected companies in the world, and put New York City, put Puerto Rico, and put myself on the map. And I've been saying that, like, I just want to put on for my culture. I just want to put on for my city and my daughter. And I want her to see that, dreams come true. And it's just been amazing. It's a humbling experience, being in the ring, being in the same locker room with a lot of those guys that were there that day, like Jeff Cobb, Brody King, Bateman, who I've known for a while, TJP, a bunch of people that were there that day, Tom Lawler, that amazing talents, being in the same locker room with them, coming out, having a great match, 2 great matches, getting an opportunity that not only did they trust me enough to make a debut, but they gave me 2 matches. And it's going to be aired on, the New Japan website and stuff like that. And I still can't believe it's real. Being able to use the photos that my buddy Justin took and, have his stuff out there, and Justin's another great friend of mine. I love the dude. Comes out, takes my headshots, takes my daughter's headshots, and being able to use his photos. Because, again, he's my friend. He does for me. I'm going to put your stuff out there because I don't forget those people that do right by me. And Rocky Romero made that happen. He remembered me. We kept the connection all these years from one conversation that we had, and just been a friend, showed love, shows love on social media, never ever rubbed me wrong, give me an opportunity. I take advantage of the opportunity by doing my very best that I can do, respects what I have, gives me real solid critique, what to improve on, and then uses me again when he says he would, man of his word, brings me out and lets me showcase my talent, and I'm forever grateful to Rocky for that. And I'm so thankful that New Japan, has given me that platform to showcase my talent and to shout me out on Twitter and receive the exposure that I've been working so hard to get.
It feels like that you and Rocky kind of have the similar trajectory, right? And I'm not trying to make you feel these big shoes, and I'm not trying to minimize what you've done already, but Rocky Romero was a guy who, in SoCal, I mean, not only was he part of this dominant tag team, but then the door started to open up when he started working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was going to CMLL as the Havana Pitbulls, winning their Super Aligro Championship. He became the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion and was defending that title in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I mean, in yourself, I mean, let's not take away the fact that you've made several appearances for the Crash in Baja California. And you've also made appearances for AAA. I mean, you just mentioned it yourself. Impact, AAA, Crash, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, I know, again, I don't think you're in your peak yet. I don't think you've hit your ceiling yet. But here you are wrestling globally. Think about that for a minute. You're wrestling globally, based out of Los Angeles, appearing nationally in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, wrestling in Mexico, which means you're international, and appearing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Brother, you are a global sensation right now.
That feels weird to hear that. The first person that I called was my dad. And ever since I started wrestling, my dad was one of the guys that got me into wrestling growing up. The first match that I had ever really watched and that I can remember watching was 97 Bad Blood, Taker versus Michaels, when Kane comes in and fucks it up. And I was so invested in that match that when Kane came out and broke the cage and came in, I got up and I turned the TV off on my dad. He smacked the shit out of me, sent me to my room, and turned the TV back on. But ever since then, the wrestling, my dad would take me to the park and we'd wrestle, we'd play fight, we'd backyard fight, we'd do all these types of fun things together. And it was really, amazing that when I started wrestling, my dad started watching all my matches. Every match I had, he would buy the DVD from SoCal Pro and to watch it and keep them. He still has all those DVDs. Every flyer I was on, he would have me mail him the flyer so he could keep the flyer.
That's
awesome. Face, and like then he would start saying, "You never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. Every time you go out there, you give it all." He's like, "I don't care if you're wrestling at a bar with 10 people or you're in Mexico with 5,000. You wrestle like it's 100,000 people. Every time, put your body, blah, blah. You never know who's watching." So when I called him and I told him, he's like, "You see, you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching." So shout out to my dad for being my biggest fan, besides my daughter, man, and really like showing me what being a father is supposed to be like and what support looks like, and just cheering me on no matter what. He buys my shirts. He doesn't let me give it to him for free. He buys my shirts, and I'm super thankful for my dad. And so, yeah, being a global sensation, I wouldn't say I'm quite there yet, even though those are the words you used, but it feels great. It feels amazing. And I just want to keep working. I want to keep climbing because I feel like you said, like, I'm not at my peak. There's so much more I want to do, and I'm only getting better. I'm only learning from the best, and I'm working my ass off. This quarantine was like my own hyperbolic time chamber. It just made me better. And whew, I can't wait for what's next.
No, that's awesome, and of course you're going to be fired up about your own career. But I love to see the passion. I mean, that's what pro wrestling's about. You're given these opportunities, like you said. Dave Marquez reached out to you. Rocky Romero has reached out to you, and it seems like you've been taking the most of these opportunities that have happened. Of course,
it was Marquez that got me on Impact too. They did the collaboration show, and
I was about to get to that. So we're talking about Santa Ana. No, it's fine, man. You're making this interview very easy for me. We're getting to Santa Ana, and you make your debut on Impact. Now, as you know, as I know, Impact has been very kind to Hollywood, very kind to Southern California wrestling over the years. I mean, Scorpio Sky, Johnny Yuma, T.J. Perkins, now Willie Mack. And, I mean, there's really, we could even go beyond that, Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Chris Bay, exactly. There's so much great talent that's appeared on Impact.
Shout out to Joe. Chris Bay, that's my boy, man. Shout out to Chris Bay.
I love Chris Bay. I for a while there I was trying to do these little TikTok videos with Chris Bay because for whatever reason every time I was in Hollywood and I was sitting there next to Justin who's telling me how to use my camera. Thank you, Justin. I would sit there with my phone and I would record some of the video because I'd like to post the stuff on TikTok. And whenever it was Chris Bay, he's in the ring getting fucked up every time. And I'm not saying he was a bad wrestler at all, but just whenever I happened to be recording, he was the one that Watts was choke slamming. He was the one that was getting suplexed by somebody. So I started doing this everybody hates Chris type thing on TikTok. It made me laugh. And I don't know if he ever appreciated it or not, but I'd tag him in the videos.
Chris is a good guy, man. He loves the fans. He's a good friend of mine. We've gone to fitness conventions together. We go, when he wrestles out here in California, sometimes he crashes at my place. We shoot the shit. We talk often. Love that dude, man. Shout out to Chris Bay.
Yeah. And again, so like getting back to Impact, so many good talent from SoCal's ended up in Impact, he being one of them. But your debut, I mean, how pretty. I grew up in an older era. I was already a grown man when TNA came out, but I watched the first, 10 episodes of TNA when it was on pay-per-view, $9.99 a week or whatever it was. And that X Division title was so important and so meaningful. And to me, as big of an NWA fan as I am, and I mean, I literally have 10 pounds of gold right here. You know what I mean?
Oh, beautiful.
I'm a huge NWA fan, but that X Division title was such a staple for TNA, and it kind of made that promotion stand out. And when you talk about the previous champions from the past, again, AJ Styles, Frankie Kazarian, Samoa Joe. Yeah, I mean, and that division was just so money. Even now, Willie Mack holding that X Division title. But you made your debut in a match for an opportunity to wrestle for that title. What did that mean to you? They could have used you in a dark match. They could have used you as just an enhancement, but you got in there and were competing for one of the top prizes of Impact. How was that? How was that for you?
So I had just split with my ex right before I got the call that I was going to be at Impact. So the month leading up to that, I was a mess, and when I showed up to the Impact, Marquez was like, I have a match. You're going to be like in the tag match. As far as I know, you're going to be in a tag match. I think he was just favoring me. They didn't want to really tell me what it was going to be. Or maybe at the time it was just going to be a tag match. I don't know. What I do know is that when I got there, a few of the guys that were told they were going to be wrestling had gotten cut. There was no space for them on the card. And I wasn't one of those guys. And then they came up to me and they were like, you're wrestling for the X Division Championship. The hair like on my skin stood up because I remember watching TNA. I remember the X Division matches, Ultimate X. I remember watching Suicide, who was like one of my favorites. He was one of my favorites. AJ Styles, all these guys wrestling for that belt. And then they were like, you're going to be in the ring with Trey Miguel, Jake Christ, Ace Austin, who I had wrestled, earlier in the year at Rhode Island at XWA. So me and Ace Austin already had a good chemistry in the ring. We had a really good match in Rhode Island. And then it was Adrian Quest and myself. And, I don't know if it was just, the wrestling gods or God himself or whatever it was that blessed me with this opportunity. But for people that watched the match, I got to do a lot in that match. And I got to really show the world what I was capable of, and the reaction that I had got, somebody had made a GIF of me hitting the symbiote DDT on Jake Christ, and it went like viral on Twitter. Like the little exchange between me and Trey Miguel, the opening spot that we had was well received on the internet and stuff like that. And I felt so comfortable in that match, wrestling, some of the best in the world for a championship that means a lot to me, to the fans, to the people in the ring that day, and being able to have one of my boys, Adrian Quest, in there with me, two SoCal homegrown boys wrestling for that championship, man. Man, it was awesome, and I really, I loved the opportunity, and I was really hoping that after that match, there would be something more coming for me. But everything happens over time, and it's all God's plan. And I think that what that match was supposed to be, it was. I'm very, very happy, and I'm very, very thankful for that match because there was nothing in that match that I would have changed about my performance.
I mean, that's great. That's pretty awesome. And it's funny because Adrian Quest, it kind of cracks me up because you're right. Like the wrestling gods have this weird plan because he was with you when you debuted in Impact, but he was also there when you debuted at AAA. as part of that 4-man tag.
Mm-hmm.
What's your relationship like with Adrian Quest? Are you guys really tight, or is it just a dumb coincidence you guys seem to be on a similar trajectory?
If you ask me, I respect Adrian Quest. I think he's a friend. I don't say that about a lot of wrestlers, but I've wrestled Adrian. Me and Adrian Quest had a one of my favorite matches ever was against Adrian Quest at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in the PP3 Cup tournament last year.
Yeah.
I love that match and then we had a match in San Diego. We've tag teamed before in San Diego. We currently have a feud going at Ground Zero. I don't know if that's going to continue because the quarantine pretty much delayed all that. But I've traveled with Adrian Quest. We wrestled in Mexico together a few times for the Crash as well as AAA.
Right.
He's a phenomenal talent, great dude, humble, and I love his grind, and I just love how he is as a human being, man. I really, really like Adrian Quest. We've trained before at Jim's studio, at JLFX Studios in Burbank. He's came by for a few training sessions, just me and him throwing down, working on some stuff. Great dude. I consider him a friend. And yeah, I wish the best for him as well. So shout out to Adrian Quest.
So, man, we covered a lot of ground already, and I feel like we could probably talk for another hour and still have a lot to talk about. But let's change gears here a little bit, because we keep talking about Rocky Romero. And again, I think the world of Rocky Romero. He probably doesn't know me from a hole in a wall, but Rocky Romero is one of those guys who I've got to see the majority of his career from SoCal and beyond, and being able to watch, like I said, I was one of those guys that was turning into Univision to watch Channel 34 and see the CMLL matches that he was having with Virus and all these other guys, and I was there when he was wearing the Super Liga Championship in in Dave's promotion in the New Japan Dojo shows back in those early days, and of course I've got to see his matches teaming with Carl the Machine Gun Anderson or wrestling against Fergal Devitt. And this guy, I mean, has had this great career, but I think one of the highlights of his career was winning the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. That title actually pushed him to get an opportunity in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where at one point he was simultaneously the the International Wrestling Grand Prix Junior Heavyweight Champion and the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion while feuding with Tiger Mask number 4. He was Black Tiger Mask. Let me ask you, man, junior heavyweight wrestling, obviously you're a junior heavyweight yourself. Speaking of the junior heavyweight title, currently there isn't a lot of junior heavyweight championships in professional wrestling today. One of the last historical junior heavyweight titles was with the NWA. They put their title on hiatus when new ownership came into the scene. But what do you think about the Junior Heavyweight Championship? And if the NWA were to ever reactivate that title, would you be interested in trying to compete for it?
First of all, I'm interested in competing for NWA. Period. I haven't had an opportunity yet. I haven't ever received a message or a call for me to come out and show what I can do. But I would love to one day, appear on NWA, because I think of all the greats in the world have come from NWA as well. And another name that I think of when I hear the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship is, Jushin Thunder Liger. Jushin Thunder Liger. And I believe that it's a title that someone like myself, someone like Adrian Quest, guys my size, my build, my abilities that we have in common, it's something that we can bring life to again if given the opportunity. If they were to bring it back, I feel like it's a championship that could mean something. I think that NWA's wrestling style is very different than my style. And I'm not blind to that, but I think that with a championship like that, it could open the door for guys like myself, Adrian Quest, to come, even Jew Diz, for example, to come out and be able to showcase what we can do on that level for a championship like that. Someone like Rocky Romero or Black Tiger, however you want to call it, was able to do. I feel like somebody like myself, I can do that.
Absolutely. Now, talking about Danny LimeLight, I know there's Danny Rivera and then there's Danny LimeLight. I know there's two separate people, but you share that same body, a very symbiotic relationship, if you will.
Yeah.
But as Danny Rivera, I mean, of course, you're a father, you're a former Marine Corps. I mean, you're always Marine Corps, right? But yes, you have that history, and in your 9 to 5 now, you're working as trying to get more jobs as a stuntman. You're writing scripts. You're working in Hollywood. You're trying to do movies. tell me about branding, because obviously Danny LimeLight is a character that you have to brand. You have to make yourself marketable. You have to be equitable.
Hey, you see that? She did a
Yeah.
spider symbol.
You have to be equitable to an audience, whether it be wrestling or even being a stuntman or writing a script. Tell me about branding and how that works in your career field right now.
So I don't know if you remember when I first started wrestling, I had a little joke. I used to say that I was the social media god, and like a lot of people hated that. But
Yeah.
I was like joking around and stuff like that. But obviously, in today's society, back then there wasn't social media. You guys would have to send out tapes and hope to get, get it back or even hear back from promoters. But now we have social media. Danny LimeLight, first of all, in my opinion, I think it's a very marketable name. I think that Danny LimeLight has a good ring to it. I think it's something that people could put on a flyer, and it's an interesting name. I think that it's something that people would want to see. And then everything else that I do, Daniel Rivera, that's me as a human being. Danny Rivera, is also the same person, but more of my friends call me Danny. They don't. Nobody really calls me Daniel. But in the acting world, the stunt world, the producer world, the director world, I'm Daniel Rivera. That's a whole different person. I'm wearing all these hats. And when I'm writing films or I'm trying to produce films, I just, thank God I just was able to create my own production company called LimeLight Productions. And now I'm producing, writing, acting, starring, stunt coordinating, sometimes directing, unless I have my friend Miko, who directs my films now, come out and put it together. It's getting a concept and being able to tell a story. And that's what we do as wrestlers. We tell stories in the ring. As a writer, I tell a story on a screenplay. And then as an actor, I bring that story to life. As a producer, I get the people that I need to help bring the story to life. And then as a producer, I distribute that or get the film acknowledged or seen, like on social media. One thing that I do on my Instagram that I don't see a lot of enough people doing is I promote my posts. If I post a picture, if I post a fight clip, I just posted a fight clip the other day. Whatever I do, I promote it. I pay, $5 for $5 a day for a few days to get it seen by more people, because the more people that see it, and then I go into the Instagram algorithm and I market who I want my stuff to be seen by, people that I look. If I'm posting a wrestling photo or a wrestling clip, I'm marketing it towards wrestling fans, wrestling promoters, wrestlers, wrestling companies. If I'm posting headshots of me or my daughter, I'm marketing it towards, agencies, talent agencies, production companies. If I'm posting like short films that I wrote or we shot or fight clips, I'm posting it and marketing it towards people that want to see that stuff. Because in this world, if you sit around, they say all good things come to those who are patient. I don't believe in that. Mm-hmm. All good things comes to those who get off their ass and go and get it. And I am very, very ambitious. I'm very driven. I'm very passionate. And that's the example that I'm setting for this little girl right here, who's booking commercials. She's booking short films. She's booking roles. And she's only been doing this for 5 months, or 6 months now. Hold on, baby. And we have to go out and get it. And everything that I want, anything I've ever said I wanted to do, I've gone out and I've done it by any means necessary. And that's by branding myself, by putting myself out there and showing people who I am, and being able to properly, display Danny Rivera, Danny LimeLight, being able to show each side of that and then bring the Trinity together as well, whether it's the Marine Corps stuff or the father stuff, like all that, I somehow put it all together. And it's a lot of work. My days are busy. This is the second podcast I've done today, and I've been having interviews all week. We just got off one promoting the film that we're shooting Saturday, and it's going out there and finding it, because people want to see things. People want to see different things. People want to be inspired by people that are doing things that they want to do, but they don't know how to get there. And by no means am I an expert. By no means am I a master of my craft yet. But I am working towards being the best version of me and the best version of that person as possible. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And that's something the Marine Corps set me up for. Time management, passion, honor, courage, commitment. That's all Marine Corps. And I apply everything that I learned into my real life now. And it's been paying off for me. And I'm so thankful. And my daughter, she's very religious. And we've been, working on our connection with God a lot lately. And it's just been helping me. Daddy? Yeah, baby? How do you turn it on? I'll turn it on for you right now. Give me that black control over there. I tried to that. Give it to me.
Well, and selfishly, that's kind of why I asked you to be on the show today, because I see you as a guy who hustles, I see you as a guy who.
You're good. Sorry.
No, it's cool, man. I mean, selfishly, that's why I asked you to come on the show today, because I see you as someone who hustles, as someone who puts it out there and grinds it. And again, like I've been doing this podcast essentially since 2006, and every day I try to learn something more and do something more. And like I'm teaching myself how to make graphics, and I'm teaching myself how to set up an OBS studio, and I'm trying to learn how to frame things differently in my pictures so that it looks better. So I admire your hard work and your ethics, and it's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on even years ago, especially today.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Like with that, it's just learning and working for it. Like if we don't have the answer, somebody out there has the answer, and that's why I work with the people I work with. You want to surround yourself with the people that are doing the most, people that are grinding, not the people that are sitting at home. I'm a firm believer that you're the average of who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
And if you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are driven, you're gonna do great. It's just statistic. It's the nature of the beast. It's human nature to who you surround yourself with is who you tend to act like and be like. If I was go back to my younger years, I was surrounding myself with Latin kings and street punks and stuff like that, and that's why I was doing the dumb shit that I was doing when I was younger. But now I'm surrounding myself with people in the industry that want to be successful, and I think it's very important. And sometimes you have to spend money. I've invested, and it's not wasted. It's all an investment as long as you're doing the right things with it. You invest money in yourself. That's why I invest money in my posts, to get the feed that I want until I can get seen more. And it's important to come out of pocket a little bit so that you can make more of it back. Another thing that I do with some of my films is, GoFundMe's, and I help crowdfund films. And that's another thing, because I'm not rich yet. And so sometimes I need the fans, but in order for the fans to want to invest their money, they have to see something in me. They have to see how, okay, this guy is working. He's not going to take my money and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
The last 2 months alone, I've done 4 short films, 3 fight scenes. And this weekend we're shooting a film, and we have 2 more lined up for next month. And it's just all about constantly grinding, working, branding yourself, marketing, networking, and investing in yourself. Because if you don't invest in yourself, why should someone else invest in you? And like you said, it has to be a brand. Why does somebody want to invest in you? What do they see in you? Nobody wants their dollar to go to waste. So they're going to give their dollar to the one that they believe will do the most with it.
Absolutely. And I mean, even more so, just to be the best version of you, you have to invest in yourself. But so
I'm not trying to.
Sorry, I was trying to,
no worries, man. I got a 5-year-old and 7-year-old at home, so I know exactly how it is. I got three girls myself, so another aspect where I respect is that you're a very loving father, you're a kind father, and I feel like, again, like that's something that's important to me, especially with a lot of the culture that's going on in the world today, a lot of things that have just recently come to light. Man, I want to cheer on the good guys. You know what I mean? I want to see more good people make it. I want to see more good people have that opportunity. And from what I know of you, Danny, and like I said, we don't know each other, but I've known of you for probably at least 6 years now. I'm happy to see the success that you're having. I'm happy to see that relationship with your daughter that blossoms. We see it blossom every time you post something on Facebook, and all the good things that are coming your way. I'm very happy and proud of you to see that stuff come to fruition. So
thank you.
I guess this is about time for us to wrap up, but I want to give you an opportunity. Give me your merchandise store, plug your website, plug your social medias. Let's get more people to follow Danny LimeLight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. First and foremost, Jay, for bringing me on to the Alliance blog. I can be found at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at Danny LimeLight. My email is dannylimelight@gmail.com. I'm not a hard person to reach or find. I answer everybody. I respond to everybody. I don't think I'm bigger than anyone. So if you have questions, you want to do interviews, you want to, come see what me and my daughter are doing, come check out the films I'm working on. Just look Danny LimeLight up on YouTube. Look Danny LimeLight up on Instagram, and you'll find something.
Well, again, you've been very kind with your time today. We're gonna end it here. Okay. I greatly appreciate it, and man, I can't wait to see you return to the ring, hopefully sooner than later, in a very safe fashion, I should add.
Thank
I'd like to see
you.
you return in a very safe fashion where, you know, the proper steps are being taken. But Danny, again, thank you for your time, man. You have a great day.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. Be well.
Thank you, brother.